Welcome to Books and Booze, a bookish and wine-induced podcast. Around the holidays, we try and mix things up on Books and Booze. We do true crime special episodes. As our podcast is predominantly about thriller books, we are huge fans of true crime. Please note that these episodes are often graphic and very explicit, not suitable for all audiences. Buckle up, brace yourself.
April 1st, 2018. This is Easter Day last year. So it was also, April Fool's Day and Easter Day. Pretty sure it's always, I don't know about Easter, but I'm pretty sure it's always on Sunday. 7:30 a.m., police respond to an emergency call at a home in South Fulton, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta, so southeast. Tawanna, Washington, Collins. So sometimes online I've seen Tawanna Collins, but couldn't find a lot about her, so I stalked her online, which is super. Stalking a dead woman online is very awkward. But on her Facebook page, she was listed as Tawanna Washington Collins. Mm-hmm. She was 34, mother of 4, and a retail professional, according to her LinkedIn page, which I also stalked. Anyway.
I feel like I'm also a retail professional every time I go to Kmart. So.
We're all retail professionals.
That's right.
The police responded, and they find that she's been shot and killed in her home. Also, 2 of her 3 minor sons in the house were also shot. So they were aged 12 and 14. They were shot with non-life-threatening injuries. She actually had 4 children, so she was a mother of 4. And I think at 34, her kids were between the ages of 12, her oldest son was an adult. So there was another son who was in the house who was a minor, who I think was 16-ish. Actually, I have a picture.
Oh, such a beautiful family.
Yeah. So in this picture, they're all the boys are all in their, it looks like tuxedo shirts, and the older 2 have vests. They have pink bow ties. They're all matching. I think the kids were between 12 and 18 years old. I think the 18-year-old wasn't at the house.
Yeah, they're all
the 16-year-old.
Really different looking though.
These 2, I'll show you another picture later.
Mm-hmm.
But the 12 and 14-year-old, the 2 youngest, 12 and 14-year-old, were also shot. Non-life-threatening injuries. They were fine. Neighbors described the family as quiet and respectful, and they also noted that they'd recently just moved into this new house together. So it was the mom, the 3 younger sons, and this boyfriend, Timothy Wyatt. So Timothy Wyatt was 41 at the time and was on parole after serving 8 years in prison for assault.
Oh my
Surprise.
gosh. He was not the father of the children.
He was not the father of the children, but
assault, and it was an assault of a partner previously? Or?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Much to come later. So this initial 2009 arrest that he was in for was a 15-year sentence. So in the States for assault, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And again, I'll tell you later.
And how long did he serve?
9 years. So it happened in 2009 here. It was 2005. And he was granted parole in May of 2017. So he'd only been out of prison for about a year. He was on parole. There's not a lot of information about what happened in this, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But so basically, cops arrived at the scene. They saw she'd been shot to death. The 2 younger sons had been shot as well. Somehow they knew that he'd fled to Tampa, Florida. The police in Florida had been notified, and so they've got an APB for him, and so they spot his 2017 white Chevrolet Impala in Tampa.
It's quite a nice car.
Yeah, it was a very new car at the time.
Yeah.
And they try to pull him over. And he's like, fuck that, books off. So he leads authorities on a high-speed chase on Interstate 275, during which he is continually shooting at police through the open window of his car. So cowboy style, leaned out the window, bang, bang, bang.
Oh
and the cops are like, whoa. The cops are like, whoa. Yeah, the cops are like, whoa. He didn't say that. That's what cops do.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so a police helicopter was dispatched, which allows officers on the ground to back off. In the U.S., because this happens, like gun exchanges with police happen. When that happens, typically the police want to back off and secure the area so nobody else gets hurt. And they dispatch a police helicopter. And so the police helicopter comes and it starts following the car, at which point the police go and they're trying to secure the area around the highway where he's still driving.
Do they throw the spikes over the road in those situations, or is that just depends how far ahead you get?
Yeah, it depends. And it, at least from what I can tell from news, like just watching the news as an American, like most high-speed chases end with like a person stops, gives up, gets out of the car, throws a gun on the ground, and everyone gets around them. Or if they're black, they just get shot like you see. So they're trying to clear the area. The police helicopter is circling. He then pulls off the highway, and like once the cops back off, he still has the helicopter over him. He pulls off the highway and into a neighborhood. And this is in Tampa, Florida, which is a pretty big city. Mm-hmm. So we're in the middle of this big action scene. So like
it sounds very dramatic.
He's around he's killed his girlfriend and shot her 2 sons. He's fled to Florida and now he's shooting out the car window and the police helicopter is over. And instead of going on, I'm gonna push pause and take us to a flashback. So here's the flashback. This was not old Timothy Wyatt's first rodeo, and I totally stole that line from the Tampa Bay Times. Okay, so you asked about his parole for assault.
Yes.
Well, it was multiple assaults. Back in 2005, officers responded to a call about a domestic dispute. And this was in August 2005, about 10 a.m. It said, when they get there to the site, they see Wyatt. So Timothy Wyatt is in the driver's seat of a black Honda. There's a woman in the passenger seat with him, and there's a guy leaning in the car window talking to them. And so the other guy is like standing outside the car, leaning into the passenger window, talking to Timothy Wyatt. And I think my shirt just came undone. Sorry.
You've got really great tips. It's fun. Well, thank you.
It's an Easter special, or is it my birthday?
2 really nice seconds.
Happy Easter, everybody. Okay, so we're on the flashback. So he's in the car. He's the driver of the car. There's a woman in the passenger seat, and there's a guy leaning in the window.
Yeah.
Cops pull up because it's a domestic dispute. They flash their blue lights. So they've got their blue lights on. So clearly this guy knows that the cops are there. Yeah. Okay. He pulls out a gun and shoots the guy.
Timothy.
Yeah. Timothy Wyatt, the guy who's the driver. This is the flashback.
Yeah.
Is the driver of the car. Pulls out a gun. Reaches across the lap of the woman in the passenger seat and shoots the guy that's talking to them twice in the stomach with the cops behind them in the car behind them.
Wow.
Clearly knows that the cops are there. And so, like, that guy falls down.
It's almost like he was waiting for the cops to turn up to do that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, the lady in the car, and I didn't get her name, and I apologize for that. But she was like, fuck this shit, and she jumps out of the car. So there's the guy bleeding on the ground. She jumps out and takes off, and he drives away. So the cops start driving after him. Obviously, he's doing that same, like, cowboy bullshit, like, out the window, bang, 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 like, shooting at them while he's driving on the highway. So he gets on the highway. He does the high-speed thing, and then he pulls off and goes into a neighborhood. Like, sounds familiar. Later on. Okay. So he starts driving around this neighborhood. And August is summertime in the U.S.
Yeah.
And in the South, we like to sit on porches. We do people watching. We hang out, like barbecues. The kids play out in the yard and shit, right? People watching is like a big, like porch sitting, big thing in the South. Mm-hmm. So there's all these people out, right? Like, so they see this guy like flying through the neighborhood. And one witness told the newspaper, quote, The guy driving the Honda was laughing and waving his arms when he went past us. I didn't figure he'd be laughing too long, though.
Oh,
So
that's
they're like,
fantastic.
this guy's like, woo, driving by.
Shooting
The
up.
cop, yeah, like, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
The cops are like, brr, and everyone's like, what the? Oh, there he goes.
But what a fun day to be out on the porch.
Best porch sitting day ever.
Yes.
This is why we sit on the porches.
That's right. We're waiting for something like this to
20
happen.
years
That's right.
in the hot sun, and then every once in a while, that shit happens.
Yep, I brought out my biscuits and gravy, and here I have dinner and a show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Biscuits and gravy. Okay, so the cops end up ramming his car, which finally stopped the chase. This is in a neighborhood. He then starts shooting at the cops from inside the car, and he's like
Wow.
popping his head up and shooting, and then like hopping back down like a whack-a-mole game. And then like a whole bunch more cops show up, and he's like, oh fuck, and he's like, okay, I give up, and he's probably out of bullets anyway or whatever. So he throws his gun out the window, puts his hands out, and they arrest him without incident.
Oh.
One cop did get grazed, and so the assault charges, he's got aggravated assault for the guy that he shot.
So he was fine. He lived.
I'm assuming, because it wasn't murder.
Yeah.
So that guy, and then there was aggravated assault on a police officer and possession of a firearm, illegal possession of a firearm or whatever. So he goes to jail. Yep, bye. But first, before he goes to prison, he's questioned by the assistant police chief, who was interviewed about it later. And he says that when questioning Wyatt about the chase, Wyatt starts laughing and says, woo, you missed a great one. I'm ready to do it again.
Oh,
What?
my God.
And they're like, fuck you, goodbye, go to jail.
You know, he's giving me real, like, Joker vibes. Like, just insane.
I didn't print out a picture of him, like just of the victims. He's got this, like, he's intense. Anyway, so missed a great one, ready to do it again. And then he went to prison for 9 years.
And then a year later of getting out.
Well, no, so it's flash forward back to last year, which is 9 years later. More than 9 years later.
He was in
My
jail
math
for
is
9 years, and then a year after getting out
Yeah.
was this
Yeah.
incident. Yeah.
So, okay. So he's killed his girlfriend. He shot 2 of her kids. He's gone on the lam. Cops found him. He's got on this high-speed chase. He's shooting out the window like some fucking maniac, like whatever. And now
He was obviously ready to do it again.
he was doing it again.
So
he was
ready.
like, "This is awesome. This is my dream.
Wow.
Best day ever." And so he gets off the highway, and so he's in Tampa. So he's from Georgia, and now he's in Tampa, Florida. And this part of town he pulls is, so this is the reason I chose this one, is because I know this part of town. Like, so he pulls into, it's a place called Suitcase City. It's nicknamed Suitcase City. And
Because everyone has baggage.
yes. I actually wrote, because no one really lives there long enough to unpack. They either go to jail, get evicted, or die.
Oh.
But
okay.
also baggage. Yeah. All the things. Lots of shit. It's a shit place. Yeah, so he pulls up to this intersection of East Hillsborough Avenue and North Nebraska. And so Hillsborough, Nebraska, they call it Hose Corner. And that's where, like...
Hose Corner?
Yeah, it's where, like, a lot of the prostitution, like, street prostitution trade happens. I brought heroin in there, like, heaps times.
Yeah.
It's a sketchy fucking part of town.
Yeah.
But it's midday. And he's like, pulls up. It's about 6 p.m. I don't know, like, so I'll tell you about it. So have you ever seen the show Cops?
Yeah, of course.
The Cops is, like, often filmed in Florida, and when they arrest prostitutes and stuff, it's very often, like, on this corner. Like, Nebraska Avenue is very, very famous, notorious for, like, prostitution and drug trade or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, he pulls up, and it's around 6 p.m., he gets out of his car and starts trying to carjack a woman in a black SUV. I do have her name. Her name is Katrina McCurry. She's 34 years old. And Katrina's like, fuck this. You're not taking my fucking car. And is resisting. She's like, nope. So I don't have a lot of details on it. But I imagine she's like trying to to like keep the door closed, and then he's like trying to yank her out. She's got her seatbelt on or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making. This is a lot of conjecture.
She's a fighter.
But anyway, yeah, she's like, "Fuck this! You're not taking my fucking car."
Yeah, not happening.
During this, the cops start closing in on the scene. So Wyatt realizes they're there and is like, "Oh shit!" and turns and starts firing on the cops. And he's still trying to pull this woman out of her truck while he's shooting at the cops. Yeah. And again, I still like picture her strapped in her car seat, like, I'm not getting out.
Well, this guy's
she's like, this is not paid for.
Well, the police are close.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's when the cops start shooting back that she's like, oh fuck this, and like she hops out and runs away. So she's fine. Wow. She gets away fine. At that point, 4 police officers open fire on him and shoot him like a whole shitload of times. Like, I don't even know how many times. It doesn't say, but like a bunch of times. Yeah. It does say that troopers then attempted CPR at the scene. Like, why? You shot him, and then you're like, oops, better go try to save him. I don't know. Anyway, he was declared dead at the scene with 2 handguns in his hands.
Wow.
Like, okay. Yeah.
What a way to go out.
I mean, very cowboy.
Talk about death wish, though. Like, this is clearly a guy who was going out of his way to have cops after him.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, like, why'd you get out of the car and try to carjack this lady? There's so many questions.
I wonder if he just was really into like action movies and just thought, that's how I want to go. I want to be the bad guy in one of those movies.
Or he had so much fun the first time and he's like, oh, I got away with it. I just threw my gun out the side and they just took me to jail. Like, I'm not, it's like, no, motherfucker, that was in 2005. This is 2018.
You didn't kill anyone the first time.
Now.
Wow.
They kill you now.
So was there any information about why he killed the girlfriend? Or?
No. So that's one thing. I tried to find information about that, and it looks like there wasn't a lot of information on what led up to what killed her. There was a neighbor that said, or a family friend, they said in the news, like, I don't know what would have driven him to the point where he would have got to that point where he went that crazy. But I got the feeling that they were trying to protect her kids a bit. I mean, they the 2 younger ones, if not the 3 younger ones, witnessed what happened. And so there's a lot of protection around that. But one thing I did find on a couple of things is I found her name, Tawanna Washington Collins, was on a few lists of women who were victims of gun violence by domestic abusers. And particularly in the U.S., African American women are victims of gun violence due to domestic violence at a much higher rate than other populations.
And so underreported as well. Like we do hear so much of, like, you know, we get so into true crime, but it is always the white women or the sweet little blonde girls that people talk about as victims. It's African American women in Australia, Aboriginal women who are victims. Yeah. Who those crimes don't really make the news.
Yeah. They don't make the news. I did find on a Twitter response on a news channel post, this is by one of her relatives, that posted a photo of her and the words, she was beautiful, hardworking mother, sister, aunt, daughter, and granddaughter who will be truly missed. So this is her at the top.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
And then these are her 4 sons. This is from her Facebook page.
Sweetest looking kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and they're all, like, I wonder if that maybe the eldest took care of the younger.
Yeah, I don't know. So the older one, they said he was an adult.
He wasn't.
The other ones were all minors, so probably between 12 and 16 years old. I'm assuming. I mean, looking at them in this picture, I would guess 12, 14, 16, 18.
Wow.
Like looking at like what looks like age difference. And these 2, look at these 2, look just like her.
Yeah.
And I have a 12 and 15-year-old, and like I can't even imagine. And so I think it's really important.
Warm.
Yeah.
You know, loving.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was the murder of Tawanna Washington Collins by this crazy wild card piece of shit, Timothy Wyatt.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, what movies did he watch to make him think that was a great choice?
Yeah.
to make. Yeah. Wow.
Are you guys in the Brisbane book club?
Yes.
I am.
Yeah, you are?
Yes.
Awesome. Are you guys like reading the book?
FYI, by this point, we were all pretty pickled. So the book that we are talking about is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Sorry.
I read it many years ago. I'm going to have to reread it because I remember really hating it.
Yeah, I'm the one that keeps like, I told y'all, like, it's
But I remember it was like, I found it really boring, and then all of a
And
sudden,
then-
what the fuck? Like,
boring, and then that's what I tried to. I told you on that thing. I was like, yeah, I think that's a way to like numb your mind because you're just like, it's all about products. And, like, what facial wash.
The movie was done so well though. Like
does,
it was, the way that they did the movie translated that so well.
So Bret Easton Ellis is such a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, I met him at the Byron Bay Writers Festival
So
years
sorry.
ago. One of my friends was interviewing him. Was the journalist, and he was a bit of.
such
we're
a
not going to put that in the podcast, are we?
No, we can say he was a bit of a dick.
No,
Like,
I'd rather not.
they don't use so
He was a lovely person and wasn't at all a pompous prick.
But that was the feedback.
he may have been a cunt. The thing
Other
is-
people said it was difficult.
But
for
I
men.
feel like if you wrote a book that got banned in Queensland, like you did something right. You pissed enough people off.
Well, it's interesting because there's one reading of his books, which is like it's a satire of Reagan era
Wall
U.S.
Street,
You know, that like excess, which we're seeing
Materialism.
now again.
Yeah.
We're seeing this like resurgence of like
the Trump era.
Yeah, and like Kardashian and all of this shit where it's like rich, we're so rich, everything's and like everyone is so like superficial and sociopathic and like that's really encouraged. At the same time, his other books, like his personality just comes through very much where he is very much a part of that and he's like, this is satire, but it's also like he's just reporting on what he's seeing. Who he is as a person. Like, he's boring. He's not very fucking smart. He's very materialistic. He's very superficial. And he's in it for the shock factor because he's fucking bored.
Yeah.
Like, I think a really, like, critical take on him is he and his entire cohort are fucking bored. They're bored. Being rich and having whatever you want all the time and not having to struggle and whatever is fucking boring. And so what do? You fantasize about killing people. You obsess on what color, how raised the embossedness of your business card is. Like, you're bored.
Yeah.
You've got nothing to fucking do.
Yeah, I remember, like, it made me think about, friends I had when I moved up to Brisbane and, I was working really hard. I'd finished uni and stuff. And going back to Sydney and the drug scene being so huge in Sydney. And, it's huge in every major city, really. But I just remember going back and visiting with some friends, and one of them spent, like, a good hour talking to me about the quality of cocaine she could get and how she had a dealer that would come to her house. And I'm thinking, is this really your fucking life? Like, is this really all that is going on?
Expensive here. Like, oh my god.
And I'm like, is this really all that is going on for you? Like, is this like all that there is? And it reminded me of that book because it was so materialistic and it was so obsessive with expensive things, whether they were good for you or not. And it was just, it was like seeing someone without a soul. Like, that's probably the best way of describing it. It's just soulless. And that's exactly what that was. It wasn't, we talk so much about, you talk about psychopaths and having no remorse, being narcissistic, but it's like his character in that book is soulless. Like, there's nothing that exists.
Yeah. Because when you don't have anything, when you're empty, you fill it up with material things.
Oh, absolutely. And that's like when you have trauma, you fill it up with drugs, fill it up with alcohol, fill it up with sex, you fill it up with like all of these things that will never actually fill the void.
Right.
So
when you don't have attention, you fill it with money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think like many people in the that listen to my podcast religiously, if
there are any, know this, but I used to be heavily addicted to cocaine. I came clean to my parents and got help, and so sometimes I'm fine with it. Sometimes I know other people are doing it and I'm okay, but then, and like sometimes I read it in a book and it's fine, but then like other times, like you'll read it in a book or see it in a movie and it triggers you.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. Like it's something I think if you've really had an addiction to it, like once it's been an addiction, like it will never be normal for you ever again.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, it's just like, I've done heaps of coke and everything. But like heroin was like my main thing. Heroin and MDMA, I would say. And to be fair, I would do MDMA again. Because I didn't feel like I got out of control with it. And I don't think I would. And I actually felt like that was like good for my mental health. That's a whole other thing. But like having grappled with an addiction and that like, I've been off for 16 years and every once in a while I'm like, today would be a great day to do heroin. And I'm like, it's a lovely day, it's warm, it's nice, like, and it's never like the bad. People are like, are you having a bad? When I like have a hard time, people are like, okay, are you thinking about using? And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, no, my life is hard enough. It's like the nice days where I'm like, the sun is shining, my kids are in school, I don't got shit to do today, and I'm like, you know what, I like to just shoot up a bunch of dope and lay in the sun for a while.
Yeah.
And like nobody is ever like, hey, it's a beautiful day, are you okay? Like, no, not really. Kind of would just like to get really fucking high and like check out for a little while and like, and of course, and then I'm like, well, I wouldn't even know where to go and I'd be scared, I'm gonna get ripped off and I'm gonna get robbed and like all the things that happened to me when I was 20 that I was like, this is not a problem. He just wants to put his penis in my titties for dope. And I'm like, that's fine. It's not rape.
Can I ask you, do you have fake boobs?
No.
They're like so beautifully.
I have a push-up bra.
Maybe you just got a really great bra.
I have a good bra.
They're not really good tits, though.
No, they're not fake. No. Nothing is fake. I have nothing fake. But I do have a push-up bra. No, okay, I have fake lashes. That's true.
Oh, do you know, like, I totally forgot to put in at the end of why I'd chosen Catherine Knight for that podcast. She was obsessed with the movie Resurrection. I'm like, that's Easter themed.
So did her death happen anywhere around Easter?
No, it was the murder. The murder happened close to Easter.
Okay.
Yeah, but the movie
Easter changes every year, so I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Resurrection was about a serial killer who would chop up people trying to remake the body of Christ.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's how it loosely related to Easter.
Interesting. So we normally end our episodes on like boozy banter where we say like, I know the whole bloody thing's probably been boozy banter, but we say what we've been enjoying, Netflix-wise, podcast-wise, music-wise, whatever the fuck you want to talk about. So what have you been enjoying in your life lately?
So I've recently gotten...
And books.
So the book I've been reading has been called Less. It won a Pulitzer Prize.
Oh, yeah, the one about the gay dude.
Yes.
Yep.
It's amazing. I love it. The show I've been obsessed with is You're the Worst. It's on SBS On Demand, and my partner's been trying to get me into it for ages, and I'm very reluctant to get into new shows because I feel like I need to emotionally invest in the new characters. Finally caved, started watching it, love it so much. Podcast-wise...
Books and boobs, obviously.
Yes.
Given.
Mostly books and booze. Podcast-wise, I've just... I only just started getting into podcast. Podcast on the left, which I listened to for the purpose of this one. Not sure how I'll go continuing to listen to it. Although they've got some really great topics. I really like they talk about leaving Netherlands, which was quite the documentary, but that's a whole story. Yeah, that's mine.
Okay. What about you, Anne?
Okay, so books. I recently reread a book I've read probably 20 times. It's my favorite book, and I read it again. Like, it's interesting. I first got turned on when I was like 12 years old. I read it. It's not a book for a 12-year-old, by the way. It's called Geek Love. It's fiction. It's about a circus family. It's really complicated and deals with a lot of family stuff and intergenerational family stuff.
Holly?
It's Catherine Dunn. And it's lovely. And I've read it as an adult, but I feel like this past time I read it really as an adult, and I don't know what that means, but like every time I read it, I have a different perspective, and I love it, and I'll read it again in 5 years, and I'm sure be like, no, I'm really an adult now. And so I love that book a lot. And I'm waiting to read American Psycho again. I read it before. I'm reading for a book group now, and I'm actually dreading it. I don't like this book. It weirds. It's the only book I've like physically been like, nope, no, like talked to aloud. Like, I don't like this to a book. TV, I love RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
I have heard so much about this.
I fucking love. I've been a fan since season 1. I've watched it since season 1. My cousin was a drag queen. I started getting involved with drag queens. I was 12. Actually, they shaped my eyebrows. I think drag queens for this eyebrow shape
did really well because your eyebrows are fucking gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've had the same eyebrows since I was 12 years old because I was like, this is peak.
Yeah.
So I watched RuPaul's Drag Race, and I like Evie Oddly. She's my favorite.
She's my favorite. She's the best. Yes.
Okay.
Evie Oddly and Nina West.
Yes.
They are my tops.
Okay.
Yes. And Brooklyn Heights.
I like Evie Oddly. I like Brooklyn Heights. I feel like Brooklyn Heights is a shoo-in for the winner, but I also really like Akira. Akira Davenport is a strong contender. She's so on point. She's got her shit down. Anyway, but I'm full on Team Evie. Sorry, I could talk about drag queens.
Same.
I don't know. I've just been watching movies and stuff. Like, my older son loves horror movies, so we've been watching the Child's Play series.
Oh, I love those movies.
They're hilarious and awful. And like
80s horror is my favorite genre of all horror.
And I love that my kids, so my husband hates it when we talk through movies, but like, if I'm not talking through a movie, I'm sleeping through a movie. I'm like, one or the other.
Yeah, I'm definitely a talker through the movies.
Yes. And my kids are too, especially my older son. And it's like a movie he loves, but he's like, what the fuck? And like, we'll be like, suspension of disbelief. And we're like, wait a minute. I went with the doll who was killing the guy. But I'm sorry, he's not driving the car because his feet can't reach the pedals. Like, I draw the line and like, or whatever.
Me and my two best friends, this is a little off topic, me and my two best friends have a movie night around about once a month. And so we each take turns picking 2 movies. No mobile phones are allowed. And you've got to like basically present 2 movies that you love very, very much, and you have to explain like why they're important to you, and like they're usually obscure movies that the other people haven't watched. And it's been one of my favorite things to do because I don't think I've seen any movie that I have like that they've shown that I have seen before, and including one of them was Steel Magnolias. I've never seen that before.
I saw that in the theater. We were supposed to sneak in and see New Jack City, and my cousin the drag queen, pissed out at the last minute. It was like, never mind, I want to see Steel Magnolias. And in retrospect, I think that was what he wanted to see the whole time.
If you're having a bad date, watch it. It is amazing. So good. It is Julia Roberts, Dolly Parton,
Daryl Hannah, Sally Field. I was going to say Sally Struthers. That was very wrong.
It is and it's all southern goodness. Like,
yes.
amazing.
If you don't have anything good to say, come sit next to me.
I don't know if that's like
best.
So what are obviously you're reading American Psycho.
American Psycho, and then I'm also busy listening to Chase Darkness with Me by Billy Jensen. Absolutely amazing. Karen does an amazing, what's it called, prologue in the beginning, just like an introduction to the book and how he got into solving true crime cases, getting involved with Michelle McNamara. Yeah, I think I've got like 4 hours left of the book, but it's absolutely fantastic, and he narrates it himself. And I've just subscribed to his podcast, which he does with Bull Holes.
Yeah, Jensen and Holes.
Yeah, I haven't listened yet. I'm waiting till I finish the book, and then I'm starting the podcast, so can't wait for that.
Awesome.
Oh God, I listen to so much shit all day, every day now because I don't have a fucking job and I just clean the house.
Have you listened to Disgraceland? I forgot to say my podcast. Disgraceland?
Disgraceland.
Fucking amazing. So Disgraceland is the guy, he talks about like rock, like not just rock stars, but like musicians, music stars, mostly rock stars, who are disgraceful, like bad behavior of and it's
Ian, like,
yes, it's so
like
good.
True Life Shameless.
True, yeah. So it's like true, but he also adds like some of it is his like storytelling. You can tell he's like, and then this thing, but he is such a wordsmith and like he crafts it so well. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
It's basically true crime with rock stars.
I'll have to have a look.
I should say also, like, we were talking about Drag Race and stuff, Melt Festival is coming up at Brisbane Powerhouse very soon, and I'm very excited for some of the lineup. There's lots of really good drag shows that's going to be on, and art shows and everything.
What was the other podcast you were talking about earlier?
Is that
my mom
I wrote it down. Memoir is a lie.
My mom thinks my memoir is a lie. I wrote it down on my paper.
My mum thinks my memoir is a lie.
Is it Mum and UN?
Yes, it would be, because it's an Australian podcast by Rosie Waterland.
That's probably why I couldn't find it.
No, yeah, so Rosie Waterland, she is a comedian and a writer, and she wrote this book called The Anti-Cool Girl, which is a story about her childhood. Her mum was an alcoholic. Her father was, he had schizophrenia and also was an alcoholic. And she had quite a horrific childhood, really, full of abuse and full of, she was in and out of foster care and things like that. But she's also a comedian, so she, you know, in the same way we like to talk about true crime and have a laugh about it, she
likes to make
from
light
darkness
of the
create some laughter.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a very, very funny book. But she created this book, this podcast with her mother called My Mum Thinks My Memoir is a Lie. Her mum got sober after she wrote her book, and her mum decided to read it and decided that she disagreed with a lot of Rosie's recounts of what had happened. So they read it chapter by chapter and discuss that particular part of Rosie's childhood.
Do they fight?
It's a very loving fight. I feel, I'm sure, you know, it was very emotionally taxing for both of them. And there was actually, they did an Australian story on Rosie Waterland a few weeks ago. It should still be on ABC iView, but where they talk about that podcast. But it's it's really, really interesting account of someone who's experienced childhood trauma and abuse from a parent, and then that relationship has healed because of her mother's sobriety and I'm guessing lots and lots of therapy. So yes, but it's a fantastic podcast and a really interesting insight into healing from trauma, I think. So, and it's a very funny podcast as well, as dark as it is as well. So.
I think the only other thing we have to say is Game of Thrones is coming up.
Yes.
Do you guys watch Game of Thrones?
Yes, Team Sansa.
Sansa?
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode.
I'm Targaryen.
Yeah.
So I'm Khaleesi, the Queen of Dragons or whatever.
Yes.
I just love it to bits, and you know, blonde.
Close enough. Yeah. Did you ever used to watch? So if you watch the new Queer Eye?
No, but I have the book in my room.
So Jonathan, who's the hairdresser in the new series of Queer Eye, he used to have a YouTube series where it was called Gay of Thrones, where he would cut someone's hair, like a YouTube celebrity, and they would review the last episode of Game of Thrones. And at the end, he would like flick his hair and he would say, "Where are my dragons?" And it was even if I hadn't watched the episode yet, I would always go straight to Game of Thrones for his recap. So I wonder if he's going to do it again for this season now that he's all famous on Queer Eye.
Well, it's the last season, so surely
He should, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, but I recommend looking out for that YouTube series. It's lots of fun.
So, the only other thing I've been enjoying is, so I am a girly girl and I love Married at First Sight and Bachelor in Paradise. So, yeah, pretty excited.
Reality TV.
But no one else likes it, so, and I can tell you guys don't like it either, so I'm just going to shut up.
I've never seen any of those things. I don't watch TV. I'm not a TV watcher.
I'm a binge watcher, so I will sit and I'll like spend an entire day watching an entire season of something, and then I won't watch television for a week.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same, like, I never used to have a TV, and then my fucking partner came along and got me this bloody massive TV. And then he goes away, and I'm like bored, and I have nothing to do, so I'm just like, yay, let me just watch it.
I recommend watching You're the Worst on SBS on demand.
The worst.
Yes, it's great.
Oh, The Good Place is good. Have you watched that?
I love that. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Very good.
I did watch that with my kids. I feel like the only TV I watch is like my kids are like, they've gotten into Scrubs, which was like canceled like years ago, wasn't it?
I like Scrubs.
Yeah, I love
Did they
that.
cancel it, or did they
I
just...
think so. I don't know. My kids are watching shit from like 2001.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
a long time ago,
these
right?
jokes are very, like, I get them, and my kids are like, haha. And I'm like, I don't think you get that joke. Like, that was a weird joke that you wouldn't get.
Yeah.
I want to get back into Grey's Anatomy. Like,
I never watched that either.
What?
No.
It's so good, and I just haven't seen it for so long, and apparently there's so much shit that happens recently, and I just need to know. Anyway,
Is it still going?
yeah.
It's still it, yeah.
Oh, I thought it finished.
I read the Shonda Himes book. I can't remember what it's called. It's the Shonda Himes book, whatever it is. Shondaland. I don't remember what it's called.
Shondaland.
It's so good. So fucking good.
I heard about this. It's is it self-help? Kind of.
Kind.
Is it the year of yes?
It's more
year
than
yes. That's it.
Yeah.
So good. It was
Yes.
so good.
The
I
Year
actually
of
agree.
Yes by
Shonda
Shonda
Rhimes. Yeah.
Shonda Rhimes, who
We're doing good.
who wrote Grey's Anatomy,
Yes.
and like it's apparently amazing.
It's not I wouldn't call it a self-help book. I think that's a stretch. It's a memoir-y. It's a memoir comedy book. It's really good though. It was so good.
Did it change your life?
You read you listen to By the Book podcast, don't you? No, it didn't.
You listen to it
I
too.
did. Of course I do. It's really good. No, and that is where I heard it. It didn't change my life. All right.
Well, I think that about wraps it up because I'm pretty trolleyed. Don't know about these two wonderful ladies. Thanks for coming on to the episode, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be back soon.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Chills.
Bye.